Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Circle of the World podcast, where we discuss Joe Abercrombie's First Law series. I am one of your hosts, Law Chamberlain Jeffrey, and here are my co-hosts,
Archlector George.
And Harrison, the Adept Historical.
We continue our coverage of the heroes, Joe's second standalone, and the next First Law entry. And so we cover opening remarks and the Infernal Contraptions. So let's get started.
We want to welcome all of our guests this evening. Thank you for joining us for our ASMR podcast.
Fucking ASMR.
Yes. The ASMR in question is George rubbing his butt cheeks across the microphone. But we want to thank you for your continued support. Yay, love that for us, love that for you. Also, just a quick heads up, folks. The week of Christmas, that Friday, the 27th, there will not be an episode released because it's Christmas, you motherfuckers. So we are going to be taking some time off, and then we will have an episode out for you on January the 3rd, just for you to consume right after your hangover and your what would I say, your
Family depression.
Your false New Year's resolutions, because we know
You've already given up on them by then. Maybe your
Yeah.
resolution is to quit the Circle of the World podcast, and you just can't
Whoa!
Let's not
Oh,
give.
no, never do that. In fact,
not-
those of you who, even though we're not going to be recording on Christmas, we expect all of you guys to be listening to an episode, one of our older ones.
Yeah, exactly.
We don't see record of it.
Don't give the serfdom any funny ideas, all right, Georgie? All right, we gotta keep.
The ideas about revolution.
No. We need to keep the oppressed. Okay, we remember that. That's the name here. That's the goal here. But seriously, I just want to thank you all, especially it's holiday times coming close, and it's great to just spend that time with people that mean a lot to you, and you, the audience, are just that. So we want to thank you for your continued support, no matter where you're listening to us from. So thank you so much. Boys, you want to add to that, or else am I the only cunt saying anything?
I can't. Oh, crap.
Okay. George, you're the
Yes,
Archlector.
thank you all for listening all the
Okay.
time.
Yes.
We love
thank
you.
for listening. Yes. All right, so we'll start off with our first segment. And since we're doing 2 chapters, our first segment will be our community interaction segment.
So, as usual, just make sure you sign up for the House of the Meme Makers memeing every chapter for the heroes. I see that nobody is. It's still just the Bloody Nine. Still just the Bloody Niner, and a few others making some excellent memes on there. So we need some more turnout, guys.
Yeah, I don't understand it. Do people not like Reddit anymore because we got banned? If that's the case, listen, we love the
We were
loyalty.
holding the whole thing together. We
love the loyalty, the brand loyalty, but come on, go show the House of the Meme Makers subreddit some love. Their mods aren't hall monitors, right? Actually, no. The First Law subreddit, those guys are cool. It was the
pervert
it was
monitors of Reddit themselves.
Apparently, it's the pro pedophile, fucking moderators on Reddit that are against us, which is like, we will be on the right side of that every time. So
yeah, exactly.
Fucking weirdos.
But yeah, make sure you get on and put some memes up. It's good fun, and you might get featured in our meme of the week. You never know.
Yeah, and you know what, guys? How about this for a special memeing every chapter? If you could work in somehow a meme still relating to memeing every chapter, but also I don't know, imply that pedophiles should get sent into the firing squad. That'd be great, just to like rub it in the face of Reddit. Just do that.
Don't try not to get banned though.
Yeah, try not to get banned. So don't say it. Don't type it out loud.
They
put
feel
it in a
threatened
picture.
if you do
Just
that.
put it in a picture.
Imply it.
Yeah, imply it. Where? Fucking goofballs. Whatever. I have my own thoughts on Reddit. because they were cool before, but apparently they're not anymore. I bet you Diddy owns Reddit. Anyway, so. Sorry,
Anyways,
I had to, but yes, continue about the segment.
Well, that's it, really, isn't it?
it is.
Oh, yes. We just want to encourage that. George had promised me 2 nights ago that he is going to have that YouTube video up and running in 3 days.
I did. I forgot.
No,
I didn't
I'm
forget.
lying. He
I
never
just didn't
promised me that, but I'm making him promise us that now.
I could have edit for the episode. I can't.
George, you said you did, even though you didn't. What's wrong?
Georgie, what's going
It's
on
just
here,
really,
man?
it's just really long. It's a
okay.
really long video.
Well, I will say as well, not obviously I have not put out anything in like forever for anything.
Me too.
And
You're
definitely
right.
nothing since my boy's been here. But I'm about to start rereading the First Law podcast. Even though we do talk about it every week and we read about it, I feel as though for me personally, it's gotten to the point now where it's so secondhand that me doing another read through is what's going to inspire me to want to make more stuff. Because at this point, otherwise, I've been thinking about it all the time, which I do fairly regularly because of the podcast. It just isn't enough. But I'm starting a new read through soon with a friend who is new to the series, and hopefully that will bring some, motivation back to the podcast.
So you're saying we don't motivate you enough? Gotcha, right? You hear that, George? You hear that? Don't laugh. Don't laugh at this, George. This is serious.
It's good. Funny.
This is very serious. This is some horse shit. Anyway.
Hey, Jeffrey. I know that you being a millennial, you take a lot of things personally, but I love you, man.
What? Shut up, Gen Zer. Don't even get me started on your generation. Jesus Christ.
I think my point has been proven.
Oh. Yo, really? You think you've proved your point? I'm gonna drive down to Tulsa myself, and I'm gonna shove that whiskey glass up your asshole. Anyway,
it's not. You just do it in April.
That's true. I could just do it in April. Yeah. Maybe I will go renegade, and I will upload my own YouTube video to subsidize for not subsidize.
That's what I'm doing. I'm just holding out, and I'm just teasing for like it's been like 3-4 months now since I
more like a
this
year.
video.
It's gonna be like some masterpiece.
We already recorded it in July, so I don't know what you're talking about, Jeff.
What do you mean we? It's you.
Yeah, I recorded it with Trey, didn't I?
Oh, Jesus Christ! Feels like a year, man.
It's July. It's been busy, and it's a long video. The audio's done. I just need to fucking come up with some kind of video.
All right. Well, that was a fun and topsy-turvy community interaction segment. So we'll move on to our first chapter read through, which is opening remarks. Boys, you ready for this one? We start off this one with the perspective of our boy Beck. And he's getting woken up by Beck and Reft. As you know, they're not the besties of friendsies, but yeah, they're in the house that Flood had told them to remember hang out.
Yeah, I think
Just
that
to go guard the empty house.
Mhm.
Yeah, they basically just stationing him in a house because they need, there's roofs around and stuff like that. They want everybody stationed in a house. They can see the bridge from the top of that house. So
Yeah, and because Ostrong is split by that river, right? That runs through the valley. And so, yeah, Reth wakes him up and goes, "Hey, the Union are coming, that's what." And Becca's like, "Fuck!" So they go up to the window, and he kind of was expecting somewhat to see mass slaughtering, but not really. At first, it's kind of quiet because I guess they're in the rear of the strongholds in the town.
yeah, well, the thing is like the town of Ostrong is like a town in the traditional sense. So like it's not like some tiny little village. It has walls, but like I get the impression that the gate and where the bridge is at, like the city isn't, the little town isn't split. It's the town is on one side of the river and it has a bridge from the town into the countryside over the river. That's the impression I got, at least.
So it seems like the river flows around the outside.
Yes.
Of the town. So you need to hold the town in order to get over the river.
Yes, that's the impression I have.
I didn't get that.
If you look at the map,
right, if you look at the map,
well, you can see the river come up to the wall, and then it kind of snakes around the back of it, and then continues on the other side. Although it could go through. Oh no, it does. It goes through. It does definitely go through.
It goes through.
And then the bridge is sort of 2/3 of the way through the town.
That's interesting, isn't it? Another false fact from the Adeptus Historical.
Oh my god, I've been drinking the one time I choose to drink.
This is it's following a proud tradition of the Circle of the World, where we get everything wrong. every time.
one of us is always, I don't know what the fuck's going on.
I love it. Love it. So anyway, yeah. So the Union have by this time have already made it over that first gate, right? But they haven't crossed that bridge yet. They're not to where Beck and the crew are at this point because they're not over the bridge. And from what Beck can see, his perspective from his point of view is a cobbled square. A cobbled square where the river is churning past it, right? And then he could see that on their side of the town that there were men that were going to form. They were forming up a shield wall in the square, and this is the shield wall that we I imagine we expect to see out of the Normans or the Anglo-Saxons, with the long shields, or no, we think of more like the that fucking the porcupine looking one.
Yeah, no, they have
Oh,
round
phalanx.
shields. Carl's always have round shields.
Right, they have rounded shields, so it would be the porcupine looking one. Shield wall, right?
Yeah, they're doing a shield wall.
Yeah.
Which is
There's different kinds of shield
different
walls.
cultures.
And medieval
It would
too,
be-
a
it'd
shield
be
wall
a-
has higher density, so it's easier to push through the units.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
So-
if they were all using spears, then it would be a phalanx, and then if they
That's a good
were
point.
all had short swords, then it would be a testudo.
You're right about that. Yes.
yes, but they do have spears. I think. At least the
It
front
seems
line.
like a bit of a mixed match with the Northmen. Like some of them have got axes, some of them have got spears, some of them
I
have
get-
got swords.
Okay.
It
So I guess
depends
the
on
big
who's
thing.
who.
Yeah. So I guess the big thing is just interlocking the shields. Whatever weapon you have, whatever. But it's about the shields,
Yeah.
which I guess is part of the name, shield wall. Anyway, so here, the crew, which is Beck, Reft, Colving, Brait, and I forget. There's like another one at least. Stoddard, right? They are nervous because it's happening, and Beck, for all of that excitement and that bravado that he had going on in the beginning of the book, he's being honest himself that he's scared, right? He's a scaredy cat, and so Flood tells them that they're gonna hang out here, and he's gonna go to the other house because basically that crew is responsible for 2 houses, and in the other house that group is even greener than this group. So Flood actually has to go over there to kind of balance it out, right? Because they at least have Beck and Reft. At least what Flood thinks are capable kids, teenagers,
Lads.
So basically, the idea is that Beck and Reft, who both have bows, and Colving has a sling, they basically hold off from a distance. They're going to hold them off with ranged weapons, and then, if need be, defend the house, obviously close quarters combat. Hopefully, it doesn't even get to that, though, because hopefully Ricci and his men will be able to stave off the Union at the bridge or something. We'll see about that. And I like how, so Beck and Reft are watching on the second floor, the windows, and they are kind of speechless, and Bray is trying to see, because this kid is so short, he can't see, so he keeps asking him. And unlike Lord of the Rings, Beck does not describe it for his friend. And that's a Two Towers reference, if you guys didn't get that. All right.
We do get that one. It's what's happening out there?
Shall I
Would you like me to get you a box?
And then because Beck is kind of being irritable and not being willing at all to describe to Bray what's happening, and nothing really,
or getting him a goddamn box,
right? Reft kind of notices this and says, "I thought you'd be happy. It looks like you'd be getting your chance to be a hero after all." And then Beck responds with like, "I am happy." And then the scripture is snapped back and not shitting himself at all. Which I think we all know means he's close to it. He's very close to it. So then we switch perspectives. And now we're with our girl Finry. And she's hanging out with Elise Dembrant and, Governor Meade over in the inn where that's going to be his headquarters to watch his men try to, take the town of Osrong. And so they're in the common hall, big windows and all that jazz. Finry asks to borrow his eyeglass, and he's like, sure, I guess, because, decorum, etiquette, all that jazz. And she's scanning the scene.
Which is a great line, by the way, when she's like, he was forced by the constraints of his, etiquette to give it to him. Pretty awesome.
Was held prisoner by etiquette. That's right. So she kind of is thinking about. She's thinking about how what he's probably going through because he's in Osrong. He's part of that attack. And Meade is wondering where the fuck is Dogman. Some people, some of his sycophants are saying that they think he's behind us on the road, but his scouts came upon a burned down village and they wanted to investigate that. And then I'm sorry, not the sycophants, but that's what one of his staff members says. And then Meade goes, typical fucking Northman. You can rely on him for a knowing shrug, but when the battle begins, he's nowhere to be seen. Now we have the sycophants going, well, Northmen are treacherous by nature, cowardly. That presence will only slow us down, your grace. And then, so then at that point, Meade goes, yeah, you know what, whatever. Order every unit into the attack. I want them overwhelmed. I want that town crushed into the dust and
He's
every
like-
Northman in it dead or running.
If you guys know anything about Star Wars, he's like that Imperial guy. Was like, fire all weapons, maximum power. he's that esque character in my mind. He has like the most pretentious, over the top like hatred for just no one for knowing. Well, I mean, Meade he does have his raisins, but still, it's
didn't they kill like his whole family?
yeah, but they're the ones who they were soldiers.
Yeah, I know. It's their own fault for going and fighting in Blackwell anyway.
Yeah. Well, at this, Finry just could not help herself. And she kind of says, surely it would be wise to leave at least one regiment behind. As far as she knows, the woods to the east have not been thoroughly scouted. And then here, Meade just cuts in. And he just says, do you seriously suppose you will hit upon some scheme by which you will replace me with your husband? And there is a pause here.
Exactly what she thinks.
Yeah, but there is a pause here, right? To the point where Finry was like, "Wait, what?" Like everyone is just kind of. She goes, "I beg your pardon," but then she doesn't even get to say that fully because then he says he replaces. He interjects and he basically says, "Ahem." He is a pleasant enough man, of course, brave and honest and all those things housewives like to coo about. But he is a fool, and what is worse, the son of a notorious traitor and the husband of a shrew to boot. His only significant friend is your father, and your father's days in the sun are numbered in small digits. Now, Meade, he spoke softly, but not so softly that he could not easily be overheard. One captain, his mouth was just open in surprise, and Meade is not held prisoner by etiquette as much as Finry had thought. And then he continues on by saying, I frustrated an attempt by the close council to prevent me taking my brother's place as Lord Governor. Did you know that? The close council. Do you really suppose some soldier's daughter might succeed where they failed? Address me only once again without the proper respect, and I will crush you and your husband like the pretty, ambitious, irrelevant lice you are. And then he just calmly plucks his eyeglass out of her hand and looks towards Osrong as if their conversation just did not happen.
Guys, that goes pretty hard actually. It's like one of my favorite complete roasts in like a totally unsuspected way. It's like it's up there with a Baez roast. You know what I mean?
To Giselle?
It's awesome. Yeah, I tell you, to many people.
Right.
It's like the level of do you realize how insignificant you actually are to me? Do you really think you stand any fucking chance? Just fuck off. You're annoying me. And I love too that Fenrir's reaction here is one of like
Stunned.
stunned, like embarrassment. Like she didn't realize that maybe Mead, she in her own mind, and she's kind of acting very prideful here. She could never even comprehend that someone like Mead was actually very smart and shrewd, and not saying he's the smartest guy ever, but he's not exactly a pushover like she thought he was. He's not a weak man, And I like that. It's totally unexpected for us too, as an audience. We're so used to like the character being like, "That's right, you go, girl." Instead, he's like, "You don't mean anything to me."
Right. George, did you want to say anything about that interaction?
Yeah, let's just continuing on the stupid joke of animals that get mentioned. There's another one there. You got a shrew.
True. Add that to the zoo.
Add that to the zoo.
But what do you think about that exchange between Mead and Finri? I mean,
Yeah, I really like it. I really like the fact that like we've kind of come to see Mead as sort of like this doddering idiot. He's just like blinded by his rage and the fact that he is actually got some semblance of what's going on, and he can shut her down like this is very good. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, and I think it's got to be. He does call out the kind of like silly notion, at least at this point, that Finri is married to the son of a notorious traitor, of course, right? And so, like, what she thinks she's gonna somehow finagle a way that same son will replace a Lord Governor. Like, it is a bit of a far-fetched scheme if you think about it, right?
Oh yeah.
And so he calls her out on it, and she takes it like as she can. She just kind of just walks away in seething rage, but yeah, that's rough to be basically have your spot blown up in front of people like that, right?
Yeah, you don't need that.
And then she walks back to where Elise is, and Elise is trying to be nice. She goes, "Are you okay? You look pale." She didn't know. She doesn't know what happened. Obviously, I guess they're on the other side of the room or something. And she goes, "I am perfectly well," which obviously she's not. And then Elisa just asked her a question. She just asked her like, it is a silly question, I guess. She goes, "What do we do now?" I mean, it's like, what else can I do? But Finri kind of she goes, "Oh well, we just sit here like good little girls and applaud like while idiots stack up the coffins." And so Elise doesn't really have anything to say. She goes, "Oh," and she goes, "Don't worry. Later on, they might let you weep over a wound or two, and if the mood takes you, you can flutter your eyelashes at the awful futility of it all." And then she just goes, "Oh," again, Elise. And now Finnery goes, "That's right. Oh." And then we leave for them. So, Jesus, all right, Finnery. Don't take it out on this poor, simple woman.
Simple. Oh dear.
So then we switch back to perspectives back to Beck, and they now they're kind of getting like a full frontal, not full frontal, but they're getting a full on introduction to what battle is like really like. He's had his bow and arrow like knocked for the better part of an hour apparently, and still hasn't shot it yet. But there was not really anything he could shoot it at, right? So he sees that the Union are over the fence in 3 to 4 places, and they're getting into the town. There's fighting all over, but it's all like broken up into small fights. It isn't like one big mass jumble that you might see, right?
Yep. It's basically a situation where they're they can only send so many people over at once. So because it's a bridge, which is what the whole plan hinges on. But the Union, they've got a lot of special equipment. So,
and Beck notices that even though there's a lot of confusion, he notices that more and more Northmen are coming back across the bridge, nursing some kind of wound at least, pointing back south. But it looks like more Northmen are retreating than anything. And so he could tell that the fence that the Union were crossing was mostly lost to the Union. And he could see that there were Northmen in the windows of the houses shooting arrows out, but then Union men would swarm around these houses, these buildings, and either bust in or set fire to them. One burning building, a Northman had bursted from there, and he just basically got shot to smithereens by arrows, right? and then they stuck him with a spear. Like Beck his eyes are darting all over the place. He's seeing men die right before his eyes, and this, actual men. Not remember he said earlier he saw a kid that had drowned in a river. He only saw the body, and he thought himself like a tough guy after that. Now obviously it's like, oh no, never mind. And then they realize that then Reft is the one that kind of announces that they have the gate. They've taken the gate of the Osrung, and next thing you know, hundreds of Union men are flowing into Osrung, and now that triple roll, that shield wall of Northmen at the end of the square, didn't look like it would be able to hold them back, and it didn't. Right? They just kind of started to slowly wilt, and men were starting to leave those ranks. Right?
Yeah, I like that. I like this overhead view. Like we don't get this very often inside of Joe's stuff, where somebody's like far away and looking down every now and then, and we're getting to see it kind of play out in real time. And I like how it is balanced out with his utter fear of what's happening, and he's just like completely overwhelmed by like the thought of all these Union guys coming in. And it's a completely different feeling to what we're used to, where before it's like, oh no, the Northmen are coming, and now it's like, oh no, the Union are coming, and like they can't, they're not stopping. It's definitely a different feeling overall.
Mm-hmm.
Joe definitely has this way of making you feel like, usually, like you say, you're right down there in the action and nobody really knows what's going on. To actually have an idea of what's happening in the battle as it progresses, but it's still kind of hopeless. And Beck's still like, oh my god, I gotta get the fuck out of here.
Mm-hmm.
I do
Yeah,
enjoy it.
and he can't leave, because he's not so far away that's an easy escape. The fighting is not too far. It's relatively close from his position, because he could still see the square and everything. And he is incredibly nervous. He's thinking about what it'd be like inside those houses that where there's no way out. And when there was a time where when he would fantasize and think about being in the battle, that he would get real excited and amped up about it. Not so excited now. And there were no fortresses built for defending on the other side of the river. They're just little wooden shacks, just like the one that he is in right meow. And that's the end of that chapter. Boys, how do you rate it?
I like the chapter for like the imminent doom that's coming on, and I like how it's kind of a perspective switch for the series. But also like, other than kind of explaining what's going on, and obviously the stuff with Finry kind of going off, it's not quite there for me. So I think I'm gonna give it a 5 out of 9. Nothing bad, a good moment, but still kind of waiting for the real stuff to hit the fan.
I agree. I think Joe does a really good job of building tension, but at this point, a lot of these chapters are really just building tension, which is fine. But obviously, you want the meat of it at some point, and yeah, I'd say a 4.
Yeah, real short chapter. I think I'm gonna give 4 as well. To be honest with you, I was thinking about giving it a 3, but I'm like, well, there's enough here that's like the tension building is really good. It's well done. You have the tension building on Beck's side, and then you have the tension building as well with Finry and the idea of, oh, what's gonna happen to her scheming, her machinations and all that. So that it's good enough, but I mean, it's just short, and it's about, okay, when are we gonna get to some action? And so that's why I'm gonna give it a 4 out of 9. So yeah, now we'll move on to our next segment, which is our meme of the week. Georgia boy, that's you. Take it away.
Well, I did say earlier, it is just it's the bloody Niner still holding up, propping up the meme in every chapter. So this is for chapter 23, fair treatment, and it's the Joey big eyes meme from Friends, and it's feeling all big and bad after kicking crossfeet in the fruits, and then pissing yourself watching Shivers poke crossfeet with this little pocket knife. Just that is exactly how I pictured Beck when that started happening. Oh, and once again, guys, come on, get on. with
Get
the
on in it. Mm-hmm.
with the meme in every chapter. Join in.
Doesn't
Yeah, thank you very much for that, buddy. No, no.
yeah? Doesn't Beck strike you as a Joey kind of guy? Especially
It's
that
more.
face.
He does definitely. Never would have thought it's like an Italian American Northman.
He does not strike me as Joey at all, but he strikes me more as much more of a he strikes me as more of a Ross. Oh my God, that's what we should do. We should put everybody into the category of friends. That'll definitely be something people want to hear.
I'm gonna be so honest with you right now. I don't know anybody. I never saw that show. I just know that Joey's the guy that with the face.
Yeah, if you're a millennial, you fucking fail.
What? I don't watch Friends. I
You're
never
the
watched that show.
only person I've ever met that's never seen Friends.
Nope, never watched it. I've seen like snippets here and there if I'm walking by a TV, but never actually sat down and watched it. Sorry.
That's
Sorry.
fair enough. It's fair
Sorry,
enough.
sorry. But yeah, thank you for that, George. That's our best meme of the week. And again, get in the fucking house of the meme maker and join the meming every chapter. Thank you very much.
Do it.
Do it. It doesn't take much. It doesn't take much at all. Right? So
Not at all.
we could do
That's
it.
why we haven't done one in a while either.
Yeah, I
we're
wonder
being
why
fun.
we haven't been able to do one. Oh man. Well, we'll move on to our next chapter read through, which is the Infernal Contraptions. We have a certain letter, I think, that needs to be read aloud.
Well, Your August Majesty, morning of the second day of battle, the Northmen occupy strong positions on the north side of the river. They hold the old bridge, they hold Ulstrong, and they hold the heroes. They hold the crossings and invite us to take them. The ground is theirs, but they have handed the initiative to Lord Marshal Croy. Now that all of our forces have reached the battlefield, he will not be slow to seize it. On the eastern wing, Lord Governor Meade has already begun his attack in overwhelming force upon the town of Ulstrong. I find myself, the western, observing General Minerick's assault on the old bridge. The general delivered a rousing speech this morning as the first lights touched the sky. When he asked for volunteers to lead the attack, every man put up his hand without hesitation. Your Majesty would be most proud of the bravery, the honor, the dedication of your soldiers. Truly, every one of them is a hero. I remain your Majesty's most faithful and unworthy servant. Privet Angors, worlds over the northern world.
Well done. Well done.
Good job. Good job. So, Gorst hands that letter off to one of the postmen and says that, who tells Gorst that he'll be on his way south within the hour. And he's basically, like he's with Miderick's division. And guess who eventually just plops up next to Gorst, right? Baez. Before Baez meets Gorst on the banks of the river and everything, Gorst does take the time to note that Miderick had sent his men to charge across the old bridge to take it. As I believe this was the 10th foot, and initially when they crossed, they found there was no resistance. They're like, oh, this is pretty great. It's cool. It's great. Now, if we remember from the previous episode, Scale had set his men up where his half of the men are hiding after, like, near that first initial entryway. And so that's exactly what happened. Once the 10th foot crossed, and they thought they took the old bridge, easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Scales' men surrounded them, at least from three sides, and inflicted heavy losses. Even when Miderick had his flatbowmen, loose a volley and create you could say like a space or a bulge in the line, the 10th foot weren't. They couldn't take advantage. They retreated, right?
Nope.
And then there was an instance, their second attempt to cross the bridge or across the river on that side was by rafts, and the current was too strong for the rafts to make it across. So that was a waste.
I did say a couple of episodes ago that we never really get to see this happen, but it's so stupid to think that you could go across a moving river in the middle of a battle on a
It is
raft.
pretty
I
dumb.
just expect that to go well.
Yeah, I mean, I think you could do it if the current isn't strong, though.
Yeah, but it always is.
It always is.
A big river with no current, like.
No, true.
I like that scale as being smart. Like you think he's just a meathead, but like he's actually very clever with his how he's like defending the bridge. He's not. He's pulling. I mentioned medieval 2 earlier. It's because of this. He's pulling a medieval 2 strat where basically you let the army come across and then you smash them on 3 sides. That way it's easier to kill them rather than just trying to hold the bridge itself.
Mm-hmm.
It's great. Good job, Scale.
Good job. Yeah, and Gorse notes this. He goes, "Whoever is in command over there of the Northmen, he knows his business." And also, Gorse had lamented the loss of his short Calvez short steel. Back when he held the charge against the Northmen in the shallows. But what are you gonna do? You snooze, you lose. And so it's Gorse, Baez, and Yorusulfur. And well, how about this? So the alchemist, right? It was the alchemist and the chemical guy, Adeptus Chemical.
Or is it not the mechanical and the chemical?
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Right. Adeptus Mechanical and Adeptus Chemical. They are there, and they have brought some apparatuses. And before we get to that, Baez, when he sits next to Gorse, he kind of pontificates a little bit. You know how Baez has to be, right? He basically says things don't change just by the asking. You have to give them a damn good shake. And the reason he's starting to talk about this because Gorse didn't prompt him at all, but he's talking about how war can be a wonderful thing done in the right way for the right reasons. It separates the fruit from the chaff, cleans things up. So Baez is a very brutal viewpoint, right?
Yeah, he's just completely given up now, hasn't he? He's just doesn't even pretend to give a shit about people anymore.
No, he's got no guys on right now. No guys.
Yeah.
Which is great. It's consistent though because he never had any guys whenever he was around people he despised or didn't need something.
Very true.
He's always been this way. So perfect.
Yep. No, very true. Very true. And so he also is thankful that the rain has cleared up because it's been playing hell with his experiment. And so what we learned about what the apparatuses are that the Adepti chemical and mechanical bring are 3 giant tubes of dull gray-black metal seated upon huge wooden cradles, each closed at one end, with the other pointed across the river in the vague direction of the heroes. This sounds awfully familiar. It's almost like it's something we know. And then, there's a lot of men here. There's a lot of like engineers, laborers here, because these are giant metal tubes, and I like how he basically gives the Adepti permission to go ahead, and and they're like, okay, thanks, Baez, thank you, Lord Baez, and so they send some lowly laborer with a torch that's lit, and okay, you go and do your thing, and
they're all like backing off, and they're like, you, the lowest rank of us. You.
And so apparently what the deal is, right, is he touches the torch to the end, the closed end of the tube. And then Gorse goes, what's going on here? And there's a giant explosion, right? Gorse ducks his head. He hasn't heard anything like it since the Siege of Adua, where the Gurkish put fire to a mine and blew up the walls, if you remember.
Yeah.
And so,
just before you move on, Jeff, I just want to talk about some of Ghost's fucking like inner monologues here.
Yeah, please do.
I love the bit where he's like going over his daily routine, and he's like, run, practice, shit a turd, write a letter, eat, watch, write a turd, shit a letter, eat, bed, pretend to sleep, but actually lie awake all night trying to wank, up, run, letter. And I love it as well when Baez is like, pathetic, isn't it? And it's like, it's almost as if he'd read his mind. And he's like, it absolutely fucking is.
I do really, that's one of my favorite Gorse ones, because it's like the most perfect, like, depressed single man, like, way too moody into himself kind of, like, process that he goes through. It's perfect.
Yeah, he's just got his head so far up his own ass. He knows he's not fighting today, so he's just like moping.
Or is
Uh,
he?
or is he?
Is he? Uh-huh. Yeah. And we could continue talking about his inner monologues a little bit more. I just want to finish up the fact that uh, when Gorse stood up from covering himself after that explosion, uh, that no one knew if anything actually happened besides some giant noise, all that noise with the tubes. And then Baez goes, "Well, they're certainly loud enough." And folks, I think we just saw a cannon being used.
Oh, you mean it?
Oh shit! Oh shit! And so then we switch on over, and so we switch perspectives over to Kerndon Craw, who's up in the heroes with Dow and Splitfoot and everything. And they hear a faint rumble over the valley. It's kind of like thunder, but to Craw, the weather's clearing up. So how's there thunder if the weather is clearing up? We know what that sound is at this point. And so Dow is asking for updates in terms of the positions, right? Like where the generals are, you could say the war chiefs. Splitfoot tells Dow that the Union men had came across just after first light, but Scale held them back, drove them backwards, and yeah, it's like they'll come again, and it's fine. Dow wonders if he's gonna hold, and he goes, if he if he doesn't, then you got a problem. And then Splitfoot says that half his men are across the valley with Calder. And Dow makes a joke about like, oh, just the man I would want at my back if I'm fighting for my life. And Splitfoot like laughs a little bit. He chuckles, and some of the other guys there. And Craw, he's old school. There's a right way of doing things as far as he's concerned, and it doesn't include letting men laugh at your friends behind their backs,
What a good man.
however laughable they may be.
I love that he admits that he's laughable, though. That's awesome.
Uh-huh. And so he goes, and he says, that lad might surprise you. And Splitfoot smiles even more. He goes, oh, that's right. I forgot you two were tight. And Craw goes, yep, practically raised him myself. And he's squared up. Like, he's like giving Splitfoot the eye. And now Splitfoot's got to measure his cock, right? And he's like, explains a lot. Oh, what? Explains a lot. And then Dow just kind of like, stop this. He goes, the both of you can jerk Calder off later on once the light's gone. We got bigger business. So what about Osrung? And so Splitfoot tells him about, okay, so Union are over the fence, fighting on the south side of the town, but Ricci will hold them, though. And then he asks him about the shallows. Is there any signs of them coming across the shallows or the middle? And then Splitfoot, he goes, well, they keep marching around down there, but no.
His head is gone.
So, yeah, basically, Splitfoot's head vanished. Something got into Craw's eye. There is a cracking sound and then a long, shrill whine, like his ears just perforated. And he fell back into he fell into the ground hard and scrambled up. His equilibrium's all jacked up. He's confused. He kind of sees Dow, but I bet you he sees like 6 Dows, and Dow's just like ordering men around. There's dust everywhere, fog, clouds, and then he almost trips over Splitfoot's headless corpse. And he knows it's hit Splitfoot because of the collar of his mail coat, and he's also missing an arm. He's confused. Craw had to check himself if he's missing any limbs. And he sees that a car was sitting on the ground, tearing at his bloody own mail. Something was sticking out of it, too fat to be an arrow. It was a splinter of stone. And he goes, what the fuck is happening? What happened? And he kind of gets his bearings just a little bit, enough to notice that the top half of one of the heroes was missing. The stone was sheared off, jagged in a fresh, shiny edge. So there's dead men scattered everywhere around its base. More dead, smashed apart, folded, twisted, split open, and gutted. Ruined like Craw had never seen before, even after the Bloody Nine did his black work up in the high places, which is saying something, right? And then I like how there's this imagery of a young kid, a boy, who is sitting in the midst of all this chaos and mayhem, and he has a drawn sword on his knees, and he has a whetstone in his hand, and he's just frozen, and he goes, how the fuck did I not die?
It would be utterly traumatizing.
Yeah.
Especially because they've never seen anything like this before.
No, this is the first anyone's ever seen anything like this. And then Craw kind of looks up and he sees Weirin's face in front of him, but it's that that long shrill whine, And I bet you know Weirin's trying to say something to him, but Craw can't understand. So basically, it's like, all right.
Yeah, it's perfect. That's a perfect impression. Jeff.
Exactly.
And then he tries to push Weirin away because he can't get his bearing straight. But in trying to push Weirin away, Craw just kind of like sits down on the ground and he goes, you know what? It's probably best all around if I just stayed here for a little bit. And so then we switch back over to Gorst's perspective, and then we see that Sorazin is like, we have a hit. We have a hit.
hit.
And apparently, this is the hit that hit the heroes. And then Bias goes, yeah, destroying the stones is not the point of the exercise.
He's such a dick. They like did something unimaginable, and like he's like, I will aim it for rocks, you idiot.
Right, but they do say that. Oh, well, they're sure that considerable injury and confusion were inflicted upon the Northmen there. He goes, all right, fine things to visit upon an enemy. Continue, and now the Deathtubes are like, oh, you want us to continue? Sir, Lord Bias, it will be prudent to check the devices for evidence of this damage. No one knows what the consequences of discharging them frequently might be. And then Bias goes, well, then let us find out. Continue. Oh boy, I like how Gorst notes basically the age-old adage that shit rolls downhill, right?
Yeah.
It's pretty
That's the
awesome
theme of
that
this book.
like that he's like that like Bias is like full on going villain, and he's like, our lives do not matter. I don't care about safety. I care about results. True like evil CEO, you know.
Yeah. And it's at this time is when Midoric tried his second attempt at crossing, which is with the rafts. And both Bias and Gorst, they both like murmur like, rafts, Jesus. And then there's another explosion from the cannons, and this time Gorst barely even flinch. So they're already getting used to the routine here. And then we switch over to Calder's perspective, and Calder hears this weird rumble as well. And he sees that smoke is rising somewhere across the river to the south, but he can't see what's going on over there. And then him and Pale Snow are with their men by Clail's wall, and they can see that Wide-Eye Hansel is riding hard from the old bridge, and he has a smile on that nice little wrinkly old face. And basically he tells them that twice the scale has driven the Union men back. The first time they came strolling across like they thought we just given the bridge over, which is funny. And then they tried rafts, and then could have told them that the current's too strong for that. And so Y.I. is like, at this point, you guys can sit here and take your boots off. We'll hold them all day at this rate. And there's still a lot of, and then Calder does say that there's still a lot of day left still, right? And then he sees something flash by in the corner of his eye. He looks, and at first he thought it was a bird that was skimming the barley of the field that's near them. But it's too fast and too big. It bounced once in the fields and then basically crashed into Clail's wall. And now there's like all that impact, right? Broken stones are spinning high into the air, showering the men with dust and bits of stone, bits of tents, bits of gear, bits of men. And Calder realizes because there were men camped behind the entire length of that wall.
Mm.
And I guess maybe you guys can talk about this a little bit because it seems like there was like a delayed sound effect here, which is kind of confusing because like at least with Craw at the Heroes, it was kind of immediate, but it seems like there's a bit of a delay.
It seems like there's a fair distance if you look at the map.
From the Clail's
there's
wall,
probably a good 200, 300 feet away from where they are.
where it hit.
Where it hit, yeah. So yeah, it would be a fair delay.
Okay.
Yeah, and they're also like they're traveling slower than like than what you would think. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe. But so basically they all kind of like hit the ground, right? They all hit the ground and ducked, and everyone was like, "Shit! What the fuck? What the fuck?" And then I like how Pale Snow, he's a very glass half full kind of guy. He goes, well, looking at the sunny side of things, that there is Broad Tenway's stretch of wall.
Yeah, fuck that guy.
Fuck Broad Tenways. And then we switch back over to Gore's perspective, and Yoru, he has an eyeglass out, and he goes, "Oh, that one went wayward." So that was the one that probably, fucking veered off and hit Cleo's wall. And so basically, at this point, the devices had been discharged about 24 times, and their ammunition, which appeared to be large balls of metal or stone. So this is definitely canon, right? Of course, duh. Just even further confirmation.
Definitely.
Just was scouring the landscape in terms of all the damage. And then, so they're trying to fire again, and at this point, Gore sees an orange flash, and he has the vague perception of things flying, and he says he thought he saw Yoru punch at nothing besides his master. His arm is an impossible blur. Next thing you know, Gore's head is, ringing by that same kind of concussive force. And then he could see that Yoru had a ragged chunk of some curved metal that was the size of a dinner plate in his hand. He just tosses it to the ground, and then Baez goes, a malfunction. And then I like how Yoru goes, the path of progress is ever a crooked one. And
Hey, the path of progress.
He's such a fucking suck up, isn't he?
He is. And listen, he knows he's got to. A man's got to eat, right? And so basically, one of the cannons had got just exploded. Even some men died. One poor engineer, just his hair's on fire. He's walking unsteadily. He had no arms, and then he just toppled over. Jesus Christ.
That's pretty horrific. But I like the fact that like we're seeing this from Gore's perspective, because he's seeing all these horrible things and he's just like blankly staring at everything. Like he's just rotating his head as he like sees Gore's. He sees not Gore's. I'm sorry. He sees
these men.
He sees all the guys like on fire and dying. He's like, huh. And then he sees Yoru like catch the piece of metal. He's like, huh. He's like his ears are ringing and like he's like, huh. He doesn't like pick his ears. He doesn't like go ah. He just sits there blankly and stares at everybody. It makes it like kind of funny, honestly.
Yeah, he's truly observing.
Oh, you're right. He's doing his job. My bad.
He's following the the job description to a T. And besides, he even knows like what he kind of wonders if he should go and help, but like what could he do? Just boost morale with jokes. So the Adeptus Chemical and the Adeptus Mechanical are walking over to Baez, and they are covered in soot and dust and everything.
I believe it's found soot.
Soot.
Soot. And as they're walking over, Yoru points out, he's like, "Oh, you know what? Maybe I should go and attend to some business on the other side of the river, because he has a feeling that the prophet's little disciples are not idle over there. And I think by this he means the prophet's agents, aka Ishri." So he goes, "There are more, by yourselves, go ahead. There are more important things than pouring my tea." I like how Yoru's like, "Very few. Truly, as the context scriptures say, the righteous can afford no rest."
Truly, as the Catholic scriptures say, the righteous can afford no rest.
That's very good, George.
That was funny. That was so funny.
I love how he's always you're so
cheerful guy.
Yeah, but I like how he's always like he always looks at people and he's like, never a moment of peace, hey. and then he's like, truly, I can never get any rest. I'm just working so hard. So he's like, man, you know how it goes. He acts like he's like a blue collar worker going into a fucking fellow business office. He's like, oh, you know how it goes back at the office. Always grinding.
This guy drinks so much tea. Oh my god. Yeah, and so he leaves, and then the Adepti, they walk up to Baez, and they're like, we regret to inform you that one of the devices has exploded. And Baez just goes, yeah, pretty evident. and then they continue on. They say, well, another jumped from his carriage upon the last discharge, and they fear that it will take some considerable time to realign it, and that they also added that the third cannon is displaying a tiny crack which requires some attention, and he is reluctant to risk charging it again.
In Pacey does this, George, Pacey gives like a climbing note to it. He's like, so I am reluctant to continue.
Yeah.
He's like,
Reluctant.
to continue. Do we have to? It's perfect.
And then Baez, he repeats what he said. He goes, reluctant. And then apparently his displeasure was as a mighty weight. Even standing beside him, Gorst felt a powerful urge to kneel. Interesting. And, Sorensen and Denka, a defect in the casting of the metal. My alloys are perfect. How dare you? Whatever.
I like how they immediately go back to the way that they were when we first met them. Just
Yeah,
constantly like, no, my metals are the best. No, my powders are the best.
Yeah, and so I like how Baez goes, oh, so we're playing the blame game, huh? There's always plenty of that left over after a battle, even on the winning side. And that the two men were practically they're kneeling, they're groveling, they're dying because that Baez has that thing where you feel like that oppressive weight. But then he just waves a hand, everything's all good, and he goes, but these things happen. Overall, it has been a most interesting demonstration. And they're like, look, Baez, thank you, you're so kind, you're so kind.
Fucking grovelers.
So then at this point, Gorse, he sees one of the guards that had died, right, via the self-inflicted explosion here on the side of the Union. He sees that his shield is nearby him, so he goes, picks it up, slips his left hand into the straps, and he starts going towards the old bridge. And he passed Baez, who's sitting back in his chair, and Baez is kind of like talking to himself, but also talking to the Adepti, and he goes, "Wow, what should they be called? They are engines that produce fire, so fire engines? No. Deathtubes?
I love that he's considering it. And fucking Tanka's like, I'm a fan of Deathtubes. It's so unintentionally comedic. I mean, Joe obviously did it for comedic sake, but it's perfect.
Yeah, it is. It's good. It's good. And Baez isn't even listening to this. He's still kind of just thinking how important it is to name, and something simple because he expects to see a great deal more of these devices. And that's the end of that chapter, boys. How do you rate it?
I want to give this one a 6. I enjoy this one. I like. It's always good to see Baez in action, being an absolute prick, fucking inventing cannons, or at least delegating for somebody else to invent cannons for him. I love the absolute shock and awe that it has on the Northmen. Like they just stood there having a nice meeting, and then suddenly there's loads of dead people, and Kroll's just like, I think I need to sit down. I think it's very funny, and it's very it's just overall a very good chapter. I'd say a 6.
I mean, yeah, I think that for me, I'm gonna give it a 6 and a knuckle because I do really like it's like, oh my god, cannons. I like these shock and awe. I'm gonna give it a 7 out of 9. I really like there's this thing that changes. I feel like so many so I like that there's this progression of technology, and I think it's very cool how that's presented here. It's presented as terrifying, but Baez isn't impressed, and it's given from the perspective it's not a big deal. But then it shows other people's perspective, and it's what the fuck is going on? I think it's done really well. So I think I'm gonna give it a 7 out of 9. Definitely unique.
Oh man! All right. Well, I knew my score going into this, and I like how it fits perfectly between the two of you. 6 and a knuckle for me. Really enjoyed this chapter. Just if there was just more, if it was an even longer chapter, it would have been a higher score. But it was fun because we see Baez's meddling and the results of that. We see, and actually, honestly, the results of that permeated through across all of the perspectives in one way or another, right? Split Foot dying immediately, Krog being fucking stunned, Calder being like, "What the fuck is happening?" Gorse is just baffled. Like, he was baffled, and then he goes, "Oh, this is just normal now." He's just adapted to the routine. The Adepti are shitting their pants, both either from the cannons and from Baez. And now we got to see the introduction of new technology on the battlefield for the first time ever in real time. It wasn't like told in a flashback. We saw it like kind of happen, and like how you see like new technology in warfare. A lot of times, it's more shock or like
Yeah.
more awe than anything, than actual like in terms of like effectiveness. But it can be pretty effective if dialed in. So
Yeah, I think it's cool that
mhm.
like it's so perfect that Baez is like, this is some minuscule damage. What the fuck am I investing in this for? But like we know as the audience, like, holy
Where
shit,
it leads
it's
to.
a cannon. This is that's a big deal. But I also like that Joe is he's a history guy and he's not just gonna be like, that's right, here we have this cannon. Look, it's wiping out hundreds of dudes at a time. Like no, it's this. He knows what an actual cannon was, what it was like,
Mhm.
how it was supposed to be used.
Yeah, no, for sure. So yeah, I thought it was a pretty it was a good chapter, But thank you for that. So let's move on to our final segment, which is our character spot. Boys, who are we highlighting today? Who else?
Well, I do feel it has got to be Splitfoot because he got his head blown off.
He got his head blown off. And that
The
one
first
guard,
victim
can't forget that
of the
guard.
cannon.
Yeah, the first casualty of a cannon. Yeah. So we got to give him his due, his credit, even though it's not something.
Congrats.
Yeah.
Yes, Jeff. So we're doing Splitfoot because he's the first death by cannon, and the poor bastard. He's just doing his job, and then he was
That's
no
what
more.
I think. It's a majority of the character spots are like. Yeah, no, this guy was just doing his job and he died horribly.
So relatable though.
Yeah,
So relatable. That's probably
I mean,
how
we
we're all
put-
gonna die.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's just
probably.
he's giving Dow status updates and then just gets his shit blown off. Jesus Christ.
Oh, at least it was quick though. A lot of these guys, they go out a lot slower than that.
Oh, for sure. But can you just imagine, like, Dow was looking at him, talking to him, and then he's just like, "What the fuck?"
Not to mention Craw appears to have got a bit of split foot in his eye.
That's right. Oh, jeez. Oh no.
Oh, but I like the fact that Splitfoot he first gained fame by helping to we got his foot split by Logan in his last
Mhm.
chapter.
Mhm.
I just love that that's like continuing on the trend of the Northman's silly names. This guy's Splitfoot. They're all like patting him on the back afterwards, like, "Oh, well done, Splitfoot."
Yes. We first saw Splitfoot in the last argument of Kings in Logan's last chapter, like George said, and man, we didn't see his growth over the years. So we just saw the beginning and essentially the end of Splitfoot's career. But he rose high and he rose quickly, right? And wow, Splitfoot, if only you would have stayed alive for the rest of this battle, a lot of things would have changed, I think.
Splitfoot would have saved us all. Would have walked right down there and done a peace treaty by himself.
That's right. Things would have changed, I swear. I actually do think it would have changed things a lot.
Really?
Think about it. I'll
Think
tell you.
about it.
We'll talk
Oh,
about it later.
okay, yeah.
But you see the domino effect there. So Splitfoot. We hardly knew ye.
Everything you say to everyone, every single one of them.
It's true though. We did hardly know you.
At some point, we should start adding like an in memoriam.
Yeah, like the fucking Hunger Games thing.
where the
Da,
character
na, 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 na.
where the character spot segment should return to being about the people that just had like a momentary glimpse that we had a momentary glimpse of in the chapters, whereas now we kind of like we take it to just celebrating the dead and fallen.
Oh yes.
Oh, but yeah, Split foot. You gave us not some gems, but you gave us some moments, I guess. Not so sure.
He doesn't really do much, does he?
No, not really. Just kind of.
He's a solid second to Dal, I think.
Yeah.
He's kind of like I don't want to say the perfect second, but like obviously
Very
he's
good one.
he's I would say if that's what the kind of tier list we should do, the best seconds. He's up there, all right. He's up there. Black Cat wouldn't have done it. Black Cat wouldn't have chosen him otherwise. Anyways, let's move on.
Yes. So, that's our show, everyone. We want to thank you all for listening and supporting this podcast. As you know, this is a passion project for the three of us, and your support means so much.
Join us after the Christmas break as we cover Reason, Debate, and Chains of Command.
And make sure you follow us on all of the social media. And if you have any questions, shoot us an email at circleoftheworldpodcast@gmail.com.
And if you haven't already, please subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, or wherever you get your podcast from. And please make sure to rate and review us. Thank you all again for listening.
I like Deathtubes.